orders to all encroachers to immediately stop all activities that degrade the wetlands, and it gave affected persons 21 days to comply. Join me on this show to find out more about this and also to get some legal advice from our counsel, Counsel Mahat. Yes, Mahat, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, Counsel, you've heard all about this, about the NEMA stuff. It's trending all over the internet. What do you have to say about it?
About the elections that NEMA has gone on with, I've followed that the matters of Luigi.
Yes.
I've been following even in other areas. NEMA is investigating to do mapping so that they can send them restoration orders.
Yes.
I think in the insight of law, NEMA, the way it is handling, what is handling, NEMA is provided for under our laws of Uganda. What it's doing is provided for under the National Environment Act. So it is protecting the environment. NEMA should be acting there for all of us. But why we disagree with the NEMA, we don't disagree with it, with what it is doing in preserving the wetlands, but how it is doing it.
Yes.
That is where the challenge is. And I think even as we shall see, even Parliament, the laws it made, it gave a lot of powers to NEMA to give our viewers an insight of what NEMA is doing. Protecting the environment is for all of us, and it is provided under the Constitution and other laws. You will see that NEMA has 3 policies it ought to follow. All of us ought to follow. These policies have been studied with the environmentalists and environmental law. In protecting the environment, you have a policy of public trust doctrine. Public trust means that the government and the local government can hold some land on our behalf and protect it on our behalf. For example, we have a lake, Lake Victoria, we have a river. It is owned by all of us, but you don't see me going to protect the lake.
Yeah, it is protected.
That's why we have, yes, by government. Even local governments have other areas, rivers, wetlands. That's where the wetlands now in issue. That's where they fall. We the public, we trust an entity like government, in this case NEMA, to protect for us. So NEMA comes with that public trust. But then also there is the precautionary principle. And this is where NEMA is supposed to prevent any person from using the wetlands, the lakes, rivers, and all other insects. On this, of course, as matters look, NEMA failed.
Yeah,
because they will tell you where a garden city is supposed to be a wetland.
Even Chisenyi Park.
Chisenyi Park is supposed to be a wetland. So it failed to prevent this from happening. For whatever reasons it has. They will tell you they had a problem of understaffing. I had the executive director speak about that. And after the failing to that, we have the other principle, which is the polluter pays principle. If you want to understand the things of the environment can be polluted, but it is agreed not only in Uganda, in India and world over, the polluter must do what? Pay. That is why the orders we are having are restoration orders. For you to restore the wetland in the status you found it. If you have been found dumping soil into a lake to establish a property, they issue a restoration order. Not only that you move away from there, but you remove the soil
that you had put.
Yes, that's what I think other people are not viewing. Because if you had constructed the house, maybe it isn't even NEMA to demolish. It is you to demolish your house and establish that place the way you found it.
Okay.
So the challenge now, having those 3 principles I've talked about, the challenge is all parties are fair.
Exactly.
So we are not on a fault-finding mission, but we do not want to exonerate the people who have built in the wetlands. If it is true they are wetlands, because that is an issue also to be determined, whether the demolished houses are in a wetland.
I saw, was it last week, they brought up a map, but I think when you study the map clearly, it seems like everything is in the wetlands. Yes.
Now mapping alone aside, even when you look at the definition of what amounts to a wetland, I've read the interpretation section 1 of the National Environment Act, and the regulations there and about wetlands. They define a wetland to include a swamp, a bog, a marsh. Now, how do you expect human beings to interpret a marsh and a bog? They also go again and say an area which usually has water seasonally, or not seasonally means in one season the water might be there.
Let's say it rains.
Don't you think that definition is too broad? It makes the whole country wetland, because seasonally, even where we are, we can have water seasonally. So for a normal human being, for them they are scientists. NEMA uses experts to do the mapping. And some of the areas where they claim the wetlands were not gazetted. It's not about you coming up with the map. You see, the wetlands were earlier gazetted even before the 1900 Uganda Agreement. These wetlands were there.
Yes.
What went wrong? NEMA, as I said, fell in its duty to prevent people from taking over those wetlands. And the challenge came that people bought from those who had taken over the wetlands. The transactions continued from the first people who entered the wetlands. Now you find that the person there has bought from the 10th person who had invaded the wetland, ignorant of whether it was a wetland before or not. Believe me, even if you went and bought land from some of those areas, you wouldn't know this is a wetland.
Exactly.
Some are purely dry. On a reasonable man's test, not an expert's test. Any reasonable man can, there are places which you look to and say, this is a wetland. But there are places which you cannot have. I've seen the letters that NEMA has issued in areas of Undeje, Nyanama, Masaja, about Karidubi wetland. Me, I knew there is something called Karidubi River around those areas of Urufuka, Nyanama, and Undeje. But I didn't know the entire area is a wetland. There is a road, there are houses.
Exactly.
When you come and look at it, it is difficult for a normal man to tell this. So NEMA did not put any signage.
Exactly.
You see, when it comes to UNRA, we have seen the signage of UNRA that these are road reserves. We have seen several signages. At least you would know. I've seen UNRA refusing people selling maize and things near the road reserves. But as they remove them, the signage is there that this is a road reserve. Look at this 10th buyer I've told you about, who didn't find any signage.
Who doesn't know anything about the wetland?
Of course, they didn't find water. You see, when you come to buy,
don't know about the background.
Yes, they are showing us poor people. They are not showing us people who came and poured soil in the area and they invested there. No, they are showing you people who wanted land that is not swampy so that they can establish a house.
Or businesses.
Yes, or businesses. So the fault is with that restoration order you started with. The fault is that the restoration order in its way, even lawyers, some of them have been condemning this as evictions. You don't have to go to court. NEMA doesn't have to go to court to issue this. It is just signed by the executive director, giving you 21 days to comply. Failure of which they can execute by any way possible, they think. Whether you own land title, whether you a chibanja holder. You see, so that is the challenge. That is the first challenge. NEMA failed on the public trust doctrine. It was trusted with the wetlands. It failed to protect them. And it is guilty of that. Now, having failed, its move of now pushing out. It is true they should be pushed out, but at least they should get compensation.
Yes. That's
for
where
the
I was
establishment.
getting to.
Yes.
That what are the rights of these property owners?
The rights of these property owners,
yes, that are affected right now.
In law, Like I said, the principle of law is polluter pays principle.
So they are the ones to pay.
Ordinarily, that is the position of the law.
Even if they are so innocent, like they didn't know about the history of the earlier, like you had said.
In law, you see, ignorance is not a defense. We need to tell our people must understand that you not knowing is not a what? A defense. When we are buying land, we usually carry out searches in land registries and we find out the title belonged to who. It is now high time that the lawyers and persons doing searches on land, due diligence, they also search with NEMA to ensure that it's not part of the protected areas by NEMA. But they have rights. These people have a right to own property under Article 26 of the Constitution. Every person has a right to own property by himself or in association with others. So if they have bought property and they have paid for it, in land matters there is what we call bona fide purchase for value. In case there was fraud or bad activities before. But the current buyer has no knowledge of those what?
Those acts.
Yes. I think that one should be invoked here. Should be invoked here. Also, when a restoration order is issued, that is not the end of life. I think people are doing nothing about it. When they give you 21 days to vacate the land, one, you have the right to petition NEMA itself to either vacate that restoration order to remove it, to vary it, change a few things in it, or to remove it, like I said, either remove it,
or remove it completely.
Remove it completely. But that petition goes to NEMA itself. So it is within your right to stop them. And what will be the issue? Because they will say this is a wetland, but you have an issue saying this is not part of the wetland. So you have to go there and petition. And if you lose, you still have another right. You have a right to appeal to the High Court. All these things that our people are not following them. Perhaps the High Court could give you a temporary injunction to stop NEMA from evicting you pending the hearing of the case. And if the case is determined that, and in the case you will plead many things. For example, one, you will say this is not a wetland. In case it is proved that it is a wetland, you will say NEMA failed on its role. Hence, you would pray for compensation or damages for the materials there.
Okay.
And government should really have this money to cater for such things, because like I told you initially, it was their fault.
It is.
You cannot turn a blind, much as it is a fault of this people to build in a wetland innocently. It is also your fault for not making sure they don't do it.
For all those years.
For all those years. Actually, the aboriginals in getting to that land, in trespassing to the wetland, they are not victims. They trespass, they sold, they even got consideration for it. They are away. The ones you are having now are different. So they should compensate these people. Yes. That is a right. They should have a right to compensation, a right to hearing, a right to own property there. Others can go, when you can build in a wetland, you have seen areas where you say, but there's this petrol station here, why is it not touched? You can go to NEMA and be allowed to carry out work in the protected areas. All you have to do is to carry out an environmental impact assessment. You heard when they were extending Sudiri's hotel in the lake. Yes. Carry out environmental impact assessment, get authorization from NEMA itself. They have this right. Yes, you can stay there, but with terms and conditions from NEMA. This is something they are not doing. So these are all rights available to these people. Yes.
Okay, now Was the 21 days really reasonable for these people to comply?
The issue of the 21 days is a matter of law. In the law, whether it is reasonable or not, that is the law. The law provides for 21 days.
Only?
Yes.
They can't like extend to like thought that you at least like 6 months, 3 months for
These are the available remedies I was talking about.
Mm.
A restoration order. Let me make this viewer understand where these laws are coming from. You see, when you look at the wordings, they are like 4 sections: 67, 68 up to 70 of the National Environment Act. They give the executive director of NEMA powers to issue a restoration order. In my view, that order should be coming from court,
Exactly.
like all other eviction orders. But it is unique in its nature that it comes from where?
NEMA.
From NEMA. If NEMA gives you 21 days, now you have the obligations to stop the 21
days.
Because NEMA will give you 21 days and they keep quiet.
And
You
then
stop
we-
it by petitioning NEMA or going to court to challenge the restoration order. When you go to court, you will get a temporary injunction. These are the things that people are not doing. A temporary injunction to maintain the status quo. That, okay, as we are here in this case, let everything remain the way it is. So even if, as we are on matters, even if the case is hard for 20 years, 10 years, everything shall remain the way it is. So not only 6 months.
Mhm.
And you have chances of getting the compensation from court legally. We have seen people with titles. As I have mentioned those sections, in my view, a restoration order, before a restoration order is issued, they would have called these people to substantiate why it should not be issued. You see, NEMA, they should be writing that, come and tell us why we should not issue restoration orders against you. Unfortunately, for it to just write, I think that is the lacuna in the law for me. It is considered as charge sheet, as in many decisions, but you see that restoration order, NEMA tends to have a lot of powers. It is the prosecutor, the one suing you. It is the judge. It is the executioner. It does all the roles. So that goes to fair hearing and all principles, because you can't just issue an order against someone and you tell them, if you don't do it, we shall evict you. And it is that person to stop you. It had to be that before that order is issued, unfortunately it is not that way. They hear you and then the restoration order is issued after you fail. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way, which goes to the root of fair hearing. So I think in interpreting the Constitution as a whole, they have let down the issue of the human rights, freedom from inhuman and degrading treatment, because if you see how they are evicted, it is really inhuman and degrading treatment.
Exactly.
Freedom from slavery and servitude, rights to own property. It even goes to the right to life, right to a clean and healthy environment. You see, when you are removed from your home, somebody has gone to your right to live.
Exactly.
Some people think right to life is protecting you from being killed. But even your living, even right to food, those rights are there. And when they are interpreted, I think here in Uganda we have a limited interpretation of those rights. Because you see right to food, what are they feeding on now? Their sustenance has been taken away. And it's not that right to food is right to eat. I watched the videos in Lubigi, they were cooking from the same saucepans, trying to make ends meet. Right to food is not right to eat. Just because you are eating doesn't mean that your right to food is. It has to be food that is healthy, that is conditioned, even the circumstances you are eating that food. So, in interpreting, there's a Supreme Court decision of Godfrey Nyakana, which affirmed that NEMA has powers to do what it is doing. But I think Supreme Court should reconsider this decision. That much as NEMA has the right to protect the environment, human beings
Also have
If
their
you
own
ask me
rights.
today to remove you or to remove a tree,
Mm.
if you ask me to remove you or to remove a tree, I am an environment activist. I like the tree, but
Well,
I
then
cannot
remove
support to remove a person for the tree to
For a
live.
tree to
So
live.
I don't know whether you get my analogy. That there are people who have settled in swamps.
Exactly.
We are dealing with their livelihoods. We need the swamps. There are many things. Look at Namavi. It was made an industrial area,
Exactly.
yet it is a wetland. So why is it that these locals, their livelihood is removed in favor? If we can protect an industry, that's what I was. If we can protect an industry, if we can protect garden city and these
Garden
other
city.
deformers, why not protect these people? I think government is failing on its role. The courts should reconsider the decision of Godfrey Nyakana, where they give NEMA obnoxious powers, a lot of powers.
Supreme.
Yes, someone should challenge this in the Constitutional Court, goes to Supreme Court, and we overturn the sections I've talked about. They are the ones that NEMA is using to impose. But mind you, I'm for the view that we should protect the environment, because that is what they call sustainable development. How can we develop today without compromising the future? Climate change is real, so we need this. But why act now? This we had to do yesterday. Now that you're acting now, accept that you partly failed on your role, for which you must pay. Buy these people land in another area, relocate them, restore the wetlands. Yes, it doesn't happen in a day. You just come and say, no, we are just going to chase them. We are going to cause anarchy. What if we discover today that State House is in a wetland? What do we do?
It has to be brought down.
It has to be brought down, but it won't be brought down. We shall put in reasoning that, you see, this is what it is. Okay, let's accept and do this and that. And that's what we should do with NEMA.
Better planning. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Mahad. You've had it all. We are sponsored by Chitauli's International. Thank you.